I was lurking on YouTube the other day and I found this really nice video by Coding with Sphere on how to make this little pop-up to do. I think it pops up here at, yeah, little pop-up to do buffer that's globally accessible. And they have described it in a way where you can kind of be anywhere in Neovim and pop it up and be able to edit it and close it and everything's fine. So I downloaded it and I used it and I was enjoying it, but I wanted to make some changes because the way that I like to work with to-dos, I was using the dated note in Obsidian a lot. So I kind of switched over from that. And in my head, I wanted to have items that as I check off, I kind of keep there. And then when I go to the next day, I can kind of move over all my unchecked stuff and start cleaning from there. If I add stuff over the course of the day, it'll go there. So I made some changes and kind of adjusted and rebuilt most of it to kind of fit it to myself. So if I jump in here into Neovim, basically what I've done, this is a fresh config for this plugin, so I have no to-dos. So if I press leader TD, it pops up this empty to-do. And here I can go H2, and let's make a little header called home. Whoops. Home. And then we can make a task, and we'll say wash the dishes. And we can grab another task, and let's say this one is unchecked, and this one will be mop the floors. The floors. And let me also make another H2, and this one could be work. And I know that I need to reroute my network cables. So let's go reroute network cables. We can even pop a little H3 under here, wrong place. So let's go extra. And here we can put a little task that says get battery for Ethernet tester, which is something I do need to do. So now if I press Q, it tells you to save your changes, doesn't close the buffer. I can press S or right or whatever you want to do and close it. Now if I press it again, I open it, I get my to-do. Very similar functionality to Coding with Spheres version. Now the thing that I did differently, and for the sake of this, let's open it again. And let's say I have rerouted this, or I've got the battery, I've rerouted it, and I have mopped the floor. Let's say I have washed the dishes because I wouldn't want to let that sit. So you'll see specifically under this H2, we have an unchecked task, whereas under this H2, all the tasks are checked. So what I'm going to do here is save this and close it, and just go to my to-do folder. And for the sake of demonstration, I'm going to rename this to yesterday and go back here. And now when I open it, what I've done is I've made it only persist the unchecked tasks and their parent kind of in the hierarchy if the item is unchecked. So if I open it again, you see we've lost that work stuff because it's finished. And now I've only kept my unchecked tasks from the previous day and their headers. And I like to work this way because then I can kind of keep track of what I've checked off and be able to go back. So then one of the things I added was you can use meta N and P for next and previous to hop between the notes. So you can kind of go back to the previous one and say, oh, let me make sure that I actually did do that before I confirm it with my boss or whatever it might be. And then I also added a little mode that you can press M and you can minimize it into a little sticky note mode. And then also you can press F to bring it into just a full buffer that you can work with. And now those hotkeys are all gone and we're back to where we are. You can even open up another one there. So here, this could be anything else. And you could be messing around and always have this on the side, kind of if it's there. So now we can go to the nerdy stuff and we can quickly hop to that. So here in the Franky folder, we can open Neovim. And it's a very simple folder structure. I just have a few previews here. But if we go, leader E, leader A, what is it? So if we go in here, we've got our init.lua and a parser.lua, which is just a separate module I've built that I'll go over. So if we go to the top, it's relatively simple. I like to keep a state variable that I can use in the file. It just helps me keep things clean. If there's sometimes functions that I need to use multiple times to get the buffer, I'd rather just write it to state buffer and then pull from there. Makes it a little bit cleaner. I have my default options that are fairly simple. And then I have expand path. This comes from Coding with Spheres video. It just helps get the expand the tilde into environment variables. And this one that I'm working on just to get an environment variable for to-dos, so you don't have to manually set it up kind of per config. Then there is this win_config function, which basically just allows us to call this when we update or set the window configs. We don't have to manually retype this everywhere. I'm very much of the belief that anything that gets written twice, you can find a way to break it out to another spot. I have this little guy just to get a file dated for today's date, which is fairly simple. And then I have this function to get previous to-dos, which basically just goes from our date and walks backwards until it finds a to-do. And then I have this refresh window function, which is used because I have the meta n and p to move to the next and previous files. We need to close the window and reopen it basically very fast, or resize it. We need to do the same. So I have a few things in here that just basically run nvim win set config with our state.win, as I said, and the window config function with our ops that we can kind of pull around without needing to pass ops to each function. And then just setting up our key maps. So also anytime a window gets refreshed, it gets all of these key maps put in there. Here's our walk files. Again, not super interesting, just for going back and forward depending on the direction. We have this open floating file thing. This is again borrowed and modified from coding with Sphere. And this is fairly simple, but the magic really happens in this. If the new path isn't readable, that means we have a yesterday's to-do to look for, so we get the previous to-do with that function. And then we run our parser with our TD parser parse to-do. So if we go up here, TD parsers require Franky.parser. So let's get into parser. And basically this is a very simple module with a little read file function that just lets us pass the path and get the file content back. And then our main parse to-dos bit. So basically, I'm not going to go over the whole thing. This is all on GitHub in the description. You're welcome to look at it. It's basically just a little Treesitter markdown setup, which I didn't know anything about. I had to kind of learn on the fly, and that's why it's not great. But basically what I do here is catch all of the headings, H1, H2, and H3 with their level, and then the actual heading title. And then anything that's in a list, that's a list item that's unchecked, we get its marker and the actual content, which is this inline, and then we call that at task. So now, what we can do is, as you see here, we have a very crude system of kind of storing our current heading, our heading level, and our current task, and walking and running through those. So we insert heading 1 to do at the top. And then we loop through all of these. And we basically say, if it's a heading, get our heading level, paste the heading. If it's not, we can kind of reset our current heading, go down. That means we're in a task. Then we walk through the tasks, add them to the list. And then there's just a bunch of cleanup at the end, which is just sorting out the heading levels, the results, and adding empty lines between them so we get nice formatting. And then I have this clean double empty lines because that was happening, which is just a bit of a messy one, but it works. And that's kind of it. So now anytime I want to, I can open this up and I've got my little to-do. And I can keep adding to here. I can say home. Well, let's put this in H2. We'll say personal. And we can say, edit this damn video. Thanks for watching.